Hi, everybody in crypto and especially Austin area. My name's Eco Builder. I did a very short video last night and I'm coming back to mop up the rest. I got some tacos and I thought we would watch a little bit about the movie that's coming out. So, over at Austin, let's see, Gateway Regal or Regal Gateway, that's at the intersection of Mopac, uh, the 360 Texas Highway, whatever that is, where the 360 bridge is. So Mopac, that, and 183 behind the REI, there's a movie theater called the Regal Gateway. And on August 4th, 5th, and 6th, there will be a showing of this movie that's based on Richard Hart, who is the creator of Hex, and Hex is the crypto that I've been most successful with. And Hex was launched 3 years ago. And I'm doing these live streams right here in order to pass them on to people inside of meetup.com groups so that I can spread the word about Hex. And Hex has been a wonderful crypto that I want everybody to know about. And I'm willing to have coffee with you, just spread the word however possible. I am retired, and I'm retired because of Hex, because of crypto, because of Richard Hart. So you can find out more about specifically Richard Hart, richardhart.com. And then this movie that's coming out that was created by award-winning folks in the movie industry. So I think they might have Grammys already. I'm not sure what exact awards they've gotten. But the movie is called The Highest of Stakes. It's kind of a hard name to remember. The Highest of Stakes. And it's because, well, one of the reasons why why it's called that is because there's a staking feature inside of the Hex crypto that allows you to stake those coins and earn a yield day after day after day. And it's because you're hard locked into the time period that you said that you were going to do it. That makes this such a successful product actually, because typically people, whenever you're talking about crypto, you're not held to a specific amount of time that that you would have to hold for. In Hex, you decide how long you're going to stake and how much you want to stake. But in other cryptos, typically what happens is people can stake it, but it's really something that can be reversed the very next day or hours later. And in Hex, you face penalties if it is that you do that sort of action. But you get the rewards of the people who aren't staked, first of all, and who unstake early. You get rewards whenever they get punished. What else did I want to tell you about that? And then also in crypto in the past, if you wanted to earn a yield on your crypto, like earn interest on crypto, you would have to lend it out to somebody else, some third party that you couldn't trust. And everybody knows that there are some sleazes roaming around on the internet, right? Well, there happen to be people who inappropriately build projects that aren't responsible, aren't built appropriately. The structure sucks, so it might fall apart, or there's back doors, or people just run off with your money if it is that they say that they'll present you a yield. So whenever it is that folks in any scenario, say that, hey, I can earn you 1% per day, you have to ask, like, where does that come from, and why is it that you need my money to create 1%. Why aren't you off doing this quietly on your own? It's because they really can't get that return, and instead they just want you to part with your coins so that they have full control of them. Another thing that we teach inside of the Hex community is if you have your coins on an exchange, they're not in your wallet. So if the exchange goes down or gets hacked, then you have no recourse. You can't. I mean, you could call them up and ask them, hey, will you please return my coins? But you're in such a bad mess if that starts happening. So Hex makes it to where whenever you're staking your coins, you're staking it with a contract straight from your wallet. Your wallet has code that connects you to the coins instead of your coins being in an exchange's wallet, and the exchange does whatever it does, whatever creates history. And whenever you have your coins with an exchange, all you really have is an account, a membership with that exchange, and they only on the screen they allocate those coins to your account. So it's not that you have a wallet with them. Your coins are grouped in with all of their coins. All right, so I thought we would start out. I'm still obsessed with this. And then we'll do the movie. Get your tacos.
That motherfucker back there is not real. Not real. You either believe it or they cannot believe it. I am telling you right now. Telling you right now. Telling you right now. Right now. Right now. Telling you right now. Telling you right now. Telling you right now. Right now. Right now. I don't give two fucks. That motherfucker back there is not real.
Sorry for all the cursing. I just looked right past it. That gal was on a plane in Dallas, I think. All right, I'm navigating over to the share screen. Oh, I have to stop sharing first. Share screen. Go to crypto, share. Okay, so Mati Allin, that's MATI space ALLIN. You know, like he's all in on a deck of cards. He or somebody else compiled a few of these movie trailers together, and that's what we're about to watch. So it's about 15 minutes, and so enjoy your tacos. I'm gonna enjoy mine, and I'll run this for 15 minutes, and then that'll basically be the show. Once again, if you found me through meetup.com and you're in the Austin area, I'm up in Georgetown. That's where this space is. And this is where I run a few get-togethers for the Hex community. downtown Georgetown, so just north of you, 20 miles. And in perspective, you could call me an expert in cryptocurrencies, but I am not. It's just that the normal populace doesn't know much about crypto. And I'm willing to teach people. You don't have to get into Hex, but I highly recommend that you follow this guy named Richard Hart and visit the website richardhart.com. And let's go forward with this.
Good morning, class. Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about money. Money is changing. To be honest, no one's quite sure anymore what money really is.
Everyone spends all their time working for money, but money on its own isn't useful. You can't eat it. You can't build a house out of it. Its only utility really is exchanging it for the things that truly have value, which are goods and services. Everything else is just accounting.
So if you go back to the beginning of civilization, there was no money. People who wanted to buy and sell things had to use barter. Money doesn't really have intrinsic value. Gold isn't particularly strong. It's not very good at conducting electricity, but it's scarce and it's beautiful. And so we've given it value as a society. Money is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people, when they think about money, they think of, oh, this thing that has value. Pieces of paper, like a $20 bill, that doesn't have any value. We used to be on the gold standard, so a US dollar was redeemable for an ounce of gold. That changed long ago. Its only value is by decree. Someone said it has value.
Our made-up imaginary internet money is better than the government's made-up imaginary internet money. Both of them are only backed by the shared fiction of the humans believing that they have value.
So in 2008, I think the history of money changed forever. That was when the Bitcoin white paper was published on the internet. It is the peer-to-peer electronic cash. It is money without governments, and it is money without banks. It seems crazy to think that our economy is moving online, but our money would not be. This is the paradigm shift of our generation.
Rich.
All right, just a second. Woo. All right, so what were they just talking about right now? He was talking about the history of money and your perspective of what money is. And so, we've been experiencing inflation. Lots of inflation. Like, I just went and bought stamps the other day, and they're now up to 66 cents. When I first learned how much a stamp was, I think it was around like 32 cents. I'm not sure though. That would have been like middle school time period, I believe. And I was just meeting with some Bitcoiners earlier virtually, and one of the guys said that stamps were like 4 cents, 6 cents whenever he was born. I don't know. But not necessarily is that just inflation. With that, maybe population growth has a bit to do with that. Guarantees across the United States. So what is money? Do you understand that there are different currencies? Do you understand that there's a World Bank? Do you understand that we have the Federal Reserve here in the United States that issues our currency that supposedly you can't not accept the United States dollar as payment in the United States? Legal tender. So what is it that gives it its value? It's kind of like an IOU on the other side of this printed out, very elaborately printed out piece of paper. Excuse me. Back in the 70s, we got off of the gold standard, where the money was backed by reserves of gold that were set aside. And this year we have, because of the people in power in the United States, they've printed a lot of money. The Federal Reserve has. And we don't immediately see the change of prices, but in time we do see. And so cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin were created in order to get away from the government issuing the money system, and instead the people could conduct commerce around the world, and keep tabs on how many or how much of this currency exists. And quite possibly, depending on the chain, that the blockchain that it exists on, the network that it exists on, you can see all of these anonymous transactions happening, and you can see the total values. You can see that no more coins were created, or that there's a set amount of inflation per the coin, per the code. So whenever it is that Richard was right there saying our internet money is better than the government's made up internet money, what he's saying is that our system is better, is more efficient, is better serving the organization of people for the purposes that people would even want money in the first place. Those are the talking points that I could think of. Let's check out this next one.
Richard Hart, fraudster or not? Are you ready to look for some fraud this morning? This account
Yes.
is $10 million.
Yes.
10 million crypto dollars?
The value is in USD.
Just doesn't sound believable. I'm nosy, so I'm intrigued by other people's business. I mean, Rolexes and Ferraris and, okay. But what are you about? What are you about without those assets?
Oh, I got the world's biggest diamond.
Excuse me, I'm chewing. So right there we had an adult black female questioning, and that was Kareem's Staker app wallet that she was looking at and that Kareem was walking her through. So Kareem's somebody in our community, and he was a good cheerleader for the hype in the beginning, and a promoter of an app that made things easy for the viewing of your portfolio. And so that gal was just questioning. I don't really know what to take from that, but kind of just, is this stuff real? What are you doing bringing it into the US dollar, or are you keeping it inside of crypto? She's looking at it like, you're able to buy all of these things, it must be real, because she looks at the material goods, and she's definitely intrigued by the amount of money that some of these people have made. And keep in mind, like crypto right now with adoption, sometimes it gets people's attention and interest and they put money into it, and sometimes it turns people off and they put money into it and it went down. And so then maybe they sever their losses and leave, or they just leave it in the system. So there's different cycles in this new frontier. And right now we're in a low down cycle to where some opportunistic people are looking at the cycle and they're like, well, hey, it's a great time to get in. And people who have already been in, some of those folks are saying, gosh, I'm really depressed right now. I just want to sever my ties and leave. So what I'm trying to say with that is that Kareem's portfolio might have gone up and come back down since this movie, or I'm sorry, since that exact footage was taken, because this movie has been years in the making. And we're hoping that this movie will battle some of the gatekeeping that we've been experiencing with trying to get cryptocurrencies out in front of people's eyes. Every time I talk to folks about cryptocurrency, I have to do a little bit of prejudice, like where do I think these people are coming from and how would it appeal to them? Because it's not like a common topic at all, of course. And then also we're talking about money here, and in public school, they don't teach you much about money. So everybody's kind of at a deficit of knowledge starting out. And, it's because who controls the money controls the world. So of course the public school systems are going to keep you in the dark so that they can continue their control. Like cities, governments, they're cancers, and they will not question their own growth. They will just grow. You know what I mean? So as long as the resources are there to grow, they will grow, unquestionably.
Forget that. That's funny. I don't know the world's biggest diamond. You don't. I do. Cool, huh?
When we went outside to do the photo, they're really like, Richard. And I'm like, oh, that's cool,
How's it going out there, everybody? Welcome, everybody. So who here is a Hexican? Any Hexicans here?
How high do you think Hex will ever come?
I look at the chart and I see that it just goes up and to the right, but it's not curving down. It's going up and to the right and then curving up as well. We are in the highest appreciating asset class in the world, and we are in the best version of all these assets. So I believe that it can do numbers that feel weird saying them.
No, but I think you've been lucky.
Let me tell you how many times I've been lucky. My first business was a car stereo store out of my front yard. Hired my friends. It was fine. My next business was search engine optimization, get people first on Google. I've been a serial entrepreneur killing it for decades. About 150 employees, done 60 million a year turnover. You name it, I've done it. And I just keep winning over and over again. I'm a serial winner.
All right. So that one was focused on Richard. Who is Richard? He has stories about his past of having a successful business, several successful businesses, hiring many people, And I don't know if he sold those businesses when he quit them. But he says he was able to retire at like 23, 24, I believe is how the story goes. So basically, like, whenever you got out of college, when you got out of college in that time period of your life, he was already retiring because he didn't go to college. He didn't mess around with that. He was one of those entrepreneurs who goes after what matters most, and that's getting people in action, getting the money flowing. So I hate the question, how high do you think this thing is going to go? That's such a newbie question. It's quite annoying. It appeals to the person's greed, and it appeals to a lot of people's greed. And it's really a selfish question. And instead, we need to understand the broader ecosystem of currencies, how they all work, interlock with each other. All right, let's go for, and then also those clips were taken from some meeting that was happening in Europe somewhere.
I was like yelling at the top of my, like standing in my chair, fuck this guy. Yeah, this guy is fucking, what? Who does this guy think he is? I was upset. You know, and so I straight up blocked him. My first hearing of Bitcoin, I was on a forum. They said, hey, if you turn on your graphics card while you're not playing games, you make about $3-4 a day. Just out of nowhere, I've got, in 10 days, I got $30 in my wallet or whatever of these coins. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is crazy. I was immediately hooked. So next thing I know, I've got 3 graphics cards and 2 different computers running in my room. There's something here. I wrote up a business plan. I was driven. So I didn't stop there. So I found 2 friends of mine and I was like, let's build a business together. Like, let's work out a deal. And he, very blasé in his way, was like, is $500,000 enough? And I was like, indeed it is, sir. Indeed it is.
All right, so that was Kurkowski. I don't know much about Kurkowski, but he has been with us from the beginning of the Hex token. And he is one of our community leaders. And he actually is a person who helped fund the creation of this movie. As it said there, he was, as the story is told, he is he's a Bitcoin miner, or was. Now it's not profitable to mine the Bitcoin unless you're like a huge business with warehouse and I don't know much about it, but I'm told that it's not profitable unless you're really big and you have cheap energy at your fingertips. Because what happens with Bitcoin is, like all cryptocurrencies, or most of them, there's a network of computers that uphold your network, your blockchain around the world. And so the network of computers, they validate the transactions that happen. So you're gifting them whenever you transact on their network. You're paying them with fees, which we call gas, in order for them to continue to uphold the network. And so they have to pay their electricity bills. So you pay them in gas fees of whatever chain it is. So let's give the example of Bitcoin here. And they need to sell that Bitcoin to pay their electricity bill. And also maybe sell the Bitcoin extra in order to make a profit, or hold on to that Bitcoin if they think that it's going to increase in value in the near future. We're at the point right now where it's not really responsible to take payments in a fluctuating currency like Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies if it is that it's not a stable coin. There are coins that stay stable, pegged to the US dollar or another currency. And it's pretty complicated on the back end of what keeps that stable. But yeah, so he recognized, Kurkowski here, he recognized that with his normal gaming situation, I don't know if it was an Xbox or a computer or what, but he heard through the internet that he was able to reconstitute a portion of his machine while it is that he's not gaming, because it's gaming's machines usually have they're a bit beefier of machines in order to run these games, these visuals. So he was able to put his computer to work whenever he wasn't gaming, and it earned him Bitcoin. And he said after a few days that he got $31 worth of Bitcoin. And to him, looking at that, he was like, well shoot, I could make a business out of this. I could get a few computers together and test this a little bit further. And then after that, he went to his buddy, and his buddy was probably already wealthy in cryptocurrency. So his buddy was probably looking for the chance, like somebody to help him expand into Bitcoin mining. Now, did he make money with that? He might have even broke even by the end of it, because after a while you realize where the sweet spot is. All right, let's go to the next one.
Go ahead.
My question is very short.
So are you, sir. So are you.
If I have 10,000 hex,
Okay.
how long time take me to be rich?
The problem is you mix a cult and money, finance, and investing, and I think things get even worse, because you're basically convincing people to put their trust in you. They start doing whatever you say, and you say, buy, 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 hold, 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 and pretty soon you've got a whole community working together. But as soon as someone steps back and says, wait a second, what are we all doing here? What is this thing that we're investing in? Then people are going to start peeling off, and suddenly the cult starts to get a little shaky. The cult leader is going to yell louder and louder, try and amp them up more and more. But all it takes is a few people waking up where other people are going to start following them, and suddenly the cult breaks down. And, you know, those stories never end well.
All right, so they started out with that guy that I don't like what he says, you know, at the European meetup, where he's like, you know, how high can it go? Man, I could make a lot of money. And then they're triggering you, you know, they're trying to make it appeal to your greed, you know, and they're trying to make you recognize what greed is available. Yes, some people do look at it as how much money could I make. So back when I first got into crypto, it was whenever Bitcoin was about to reach to $20,000, and that was the Christmas of 2017. It was right after everybody just had Thanksgiving dinner with their family, and they got to gossiping over the price of Bitcoin rising. And so I just wanted to get my hands on some, because I never had owned it. So it was time for me to dive in and figure out what is this all about, because I'm a curious person. So I went, and online I found that there were some ATMs in the Austin area. So I went down the highway to the next town, or actually 2 towns over, and I went to this bar during a time period where nothing was going on. And I went up to this ATM and I put $100 bill into the ATM, and it told me to download one of 2 app wallets on my phone so that we could do this whole like QR code exchange. And boom, there it was, $100 in Bitcoin on my phone. And then I kept the receipt of that. It's still hanging in one of my rooms, or taped to the wall, just as a little memo, the dates and the fun that I had. I have since moved that Bitcoin and exchanged it for other things, but I watched that Bitcoin $100 start to drop, and I wanted to realize what it was that was happening and why is it that the Bitcoin price was dipping. And it actually dipped from $20,000 down to $3,500 within a few months, or 4 months, maybe 4.5 months. So it was a hard lesson learned, but at least I didn't FOMO into it like what they were trying to trigger you with just a while ago with that guy talking. Because when I was looking into Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin and everything, there were all these YouTubers that were saying, oh, it's going to the moon, it's finally breaking out, everything's going crazy. You might as well max out your credit cards and be all in on this Bitcoin stuff. And so amateur people with their cell phones were recording themselves talking about buying this new thing here and that new thing there, because you'll never have to pay it back because it was paid for with a credit card at the same time that they have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's going to pay for all of it. That's pretty scary thought, but it happens. You know, some people, I'll explain my gains that I experienced with Hex to some folks that I grew up with, and some of the folks that I don't know how to describe them without being mean, but they start doing the mathematics in their head, and then they're like, oh, well, you know, I could go run some extra deliveries, pull up this extra gig with Uber Eats or this extra gig with a friend or something, and I could do that week after week, make this certain amount of money, and that would make it to where I'm a millionaire in no time. And then you go and have a dip and a bear market and things like that. And I've already spoken about how people get deterred. Tin Tops in the chat saying he also is known to buy tops, meaning at the top of the market. So we've got Academiated and Tin Top in the chat. Academiated here. Good evening. And Tin Top. And Tin Top was talking about that female that was earlier in the stream, calling her a fraud investor. That's hilarious. Tin Top talks about how you could run an EXE, a program, on your computer. And mine the Bitcoin that way. The problem with something that Hex does better than other cryptos is it helps you not sell. Often people will experience 100x gain on, let's say, Bitcoin, they experience 100x, and then they're like, I'm satisfied with that. I'm gonna sell, or I'm gonna barter with somebody in the real world, right? Trade a house or trade a pizza. And not that they end up regretting it, but it ends up that the price just keeps on going up cycle after cycle. And Hex, like I was saying in the beginning, Hex is a hard time lock. So it'll give you a yield, which is an interest on your crypto that you've got staked. So it gives you a reason not to sell, not to get out of it. So let's go on to the next portion of this. These are really fun. I'm glad Maddie posted these.
It says scam.
Is Hex a scam?
Richard explained it a lot of times on stream why it isn't a scam or a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid or something like that.
So you're saying Richard told me that the thing he made is a scam, therefore it's not a scam?
Is Hex a scam?
Scam.
That's a ridiculous idea.
It's one of those things, one of those words that's difficult to shake off.
No, this is definitely not a scam.
This is the closest thing that you could call a Ponzi scheme.
So go show me the person that's been scammed.
All promises are met. Why it's scam?
One article entitled "Richard Hart's Hex Token is a Brilliant Scam."
There's got to be something deep down on why you're saying this.
Sorry, Richard, this is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't like the way he acts. He's richer and has more bigger dick than me. Not fair.
He's just not a scam artist.
These are the people that call Bitcoin a scam when Bitcoin was 10 cents. So you're only going to miss out.
You con people into taking a worthless currency that you create for nothing.
All right. Oops.
I want my kids.
Okay. So, in the beginning of Hex, we embrace this term scam. We embrace the term scam so much that on the website hex.com, there was a tab up at the top that said scam. And so you could either drop down menu off of that or click on it and see the page on the website that was dedicated just to talking about it not being a scam. Now, people would often call it a Ponzi scheme. And they would call it two other types of scams. I forget which, right? Multi-level marketing was one of them. And I forgot the other one. But a Ponzi scheme, in case you don't know, I know that the viewers right now know, but you folks from meetup.com may not know. Ponzi scheme is where the initial investments go to the founder, and then everything after that goes to pay off the person that got in before you. So it's always the new fresh guy that is giving up their money and needs the next guy to come in to get money flowing to them. Hex is very elaborate. It organizes folks' financial power. And so it makes it to where everybody interacts with a contract, and like we were talking about earlier with our made up internet money is better than the government's made up internet money. Well, money is always based on the belief of everybody using it. And so as long as it is that people enjoy the user interface of Hex, then it will continue to have users. As long as the blockchain exists with the Hex contract on top of the blockchain, sewn into it, permanently sewn into it, and we're able to have access to it, or even if we don't have access to it anymore, as long as somebody has access to it and is able to earn those coins, then there's a competition to acquire Hex tokens, stake it, and get the interest rate. It's a game. That's what is life. It's a game. So what I've been explaining Hex, whenever I've been explaining Hex to folks that come out of the Bitcoin world, is I tell them it's an organization of people. It's that contract acts as a third party that's fair. So folks who say that they're going to lock it up for a time period, and we're talking about tokens, we're not necessarily talking about dollars, we're talking about tokens. They say that they're going to lock it up for a time period. They have to hold to that or face the penalties. But that time period was decided by them. That amount of coins that they locked up for that time period was decided by them. So it's a relationship with the contract. Everybody has their own personal relationship with the contract, and you're remembered by your wallet. You are your wallet. And you can have as many wallets as you want. You can have as many stakes as you want, but each stake stands alone. If you cancel one stake, it's not going to affect another stake. I don't even remember what else I wanted to say about this one. Oh, scam. So at one point, there was a lawyer or several lawyers who were claiming that they wanted to keep Richard out of jail. And and one of the lawyers was inside of his like Toyota car or something like that. It seemed like he was in the driver's seat of a car on his cell phone video call. And I remember the lawyer saying, this doesn't sound like it's anything special. Instead, it sounds like a 10th grade math project. And it's pretty funny. If it is that a 10th grader could actually think about doing that sort of thing, then awesome. Because it's not that grandiose of an idea, but it is bugless. It is flawless. Tin Top's got something here in the chat for us. RH scammed a lot of people out of debt slavery. Out of the 9 to 5, just over broke. Right? When you're working the 9 to 5, like, I don't know where your mind goes, but my mind goes to exactly the amount of dollars that I'm making every minute. I worked in the corporate world for 3.5 years, and the whole time I was just like, I'm only temporarily doing this. I'm saving up my money to jump ship. I'm going to do something else. And then on Facebook, my Facebook profile, right when I jumped ship from corporate world, I told Facebook that I was retired, and I haven't changed that since. So I retired in 2012 from being a slave in corporate world. Then I went to being the slave inside of other scenarios. And I started, this is a good one. I kind of like teamed up with some guys that are local to me here, and they screwed me over. I wish that I had a contract to keep them honest and to make it to where funds were flowing to me based on what I did myself. But instead, they manipulated the situation and squeezed me out and paid me late. So I was paying interest on my credit cards the entire time I was requesting paperwork for my part ownership in the business that we created together. And we were going to continue to spread. But they're the type of selfish people who they're the type of selfish people that they want to be on top of everybody. They're the type of people that, like, if somebody told them, if we work together and you put in $1,000 and I put in $100, I can make sure that I make $1 million and you make 100,000. And then those folks would be like, well, wait a minute, why am I not getting the million? They don't want to look at their money going from 1,000 to 100,000. They want to look at, why is it that this person's making more than me? So I had to deal with folks that are like that, and they squeezed me out, and I had no recourse. So what do? You learn the lesson. And so maybe that's kind of like my like a third party experience that I didn't have to go through in crypto. Like what I was saying earlier, if you want to earn interest on your crypto, typically before Hex, you would have to lend it out to a third party and they could run away with your coins. Just like if an exchange fails, it's not in your wallet, it's not your keys, it's not your tokens. All right, let's go to the next one.
I want my kids to be able to do whatever they want in life. And so many people get caught up in the rat race. I want to do whatever I can to preemptively steer them away from that.
If he calls, you can talk to him about life, his wife, his kids, whatever. I don't care. But we're not doing this. Like, we are not getting into this. I'm pretty sure I laughed, like, because I'd heard my kids even talk about Bitcoin.
Do you know how your air conditioner works? Like, it gives you cold air. Like, we don't necessarily know how something works. I don't know how it all works either, but I know that it will work.
People are buying computer money with their real money and thinking that they're going to get rich someday. What a joke.
I put it all in. I went
Like, all what?
all over house money, most of it. I did like 100,000.
That's awesome. So I really like having the mother's perspective on this. She says, people are taking their real money and they're buying fake internet money with it. It's really an interesting perspective. Obviously she hasn't done too much internet money exchanging. Also, she probably hasn't been to other countries and stuff too often, right? To get used to exchanging money. She's definitely not a stock trader, right? But I totally understand where she's coming from, because she's concerned for her family. And then I understand where he's coming from, because he's like, we're all slaving in this system. I want a different upbringing. I want this to be different for my kids. I want my kids to be more entrepreneurial. All right, let's go to the next one.
You've been studying the activities of the Hex on the blockchain, right? Why wouldn't you invest in it?
All right, so I've told you from the day one, like, the main thing I don't like about it is it does nothing.
Well, I have to take that back. Yes, it does do something. It makes people money.
I don't think that Hex is a Ponzi scheme, but Ponzi schemes also make people money until they don't. I just don't see the value. Like, I am a finance professional. What I look for is value. What is the value?
Doesn't money bring you value? You mean to tell me that if I asked you, Lamont, can I borrow $150? You said, sure, Kelly, I'll give you $150. And I bought Hex with it. And then told you in 2 years, you know that $150 loan? I turned it into $40,000 and I'm giving it to you. Would you say to me, Kelly, I'm principled. I'm a finance professional. I'm not going to take the money. Is that what you would say to me?
I'm not sure I would turn that down.
Okay.
So the reason why the background here is in Vegas is because she was at Vegas at one of our get-togethers, and she didn't tell me that she was doing this sort of thing, but whatever. We've met in Vegas a few times for Hex. All right, so she's saying that, hey, it works. It provides people more money. People are making money, so it does produce something. But that's not what that guy was at. Like, what she's saying is that it's a system of organizing people, and some of the folks have been able to get money out of the system, so it does something for them. And what he is saying is that there's no work being done. Like, he wants there to be like some sort of an industry behind it, a company doing some work behind it that has an evaluation, maybe precious resources behind it, maybe some sort of a currency fund behind it, but instead there isn't one. And so, like, in Hex, if there is any work being talked about, it's the work of interacting with the contract, and it's the work of everything that's going on the Ethereum blockchain, or everything that's going on the Pulse Chain blockchain, and the upholding of those. So this has often been an argument, and this is why some people consider or had arrived at the point of calling Hex a scam, because what we did in Hex, or what Richard Hart did, was he created this contract that monetizes time. We monetize time. So you can operate with it or not, but it's all based on the time period that you're willing to wait. So, like, price of token aside. And so initially, whenever we were advertising to people, like word of mouth marketing and everything, or telling people stuff over the internet, we would call this a time deposit. And that is what the bank, like the that banks in the United States offer time deposits in US dollars. And that's what we're offering here. However, you don't have to, you can stay anonymous. You don't have to go and sign up with a bank. You have the capabilities of doing this at whatever age you are. Tin Top here is laughing about how the guy would take the finance professional would take the 40K He doesn't quite understand where his money ultimately came from. Poof, magically created out of thin air with a click of a button. That's how the Federal Reserve creates the money that we play with day to day here in the United States. All right, let's go to the next one.
So this is something called the Hex audit. It just goes into what's happening with the OA. What's really interesting is when you dig into the OA, I think it exposed a lot of things that should be known about Hex, but I don't think most Hexicans wanted people to know about Hex.
Richard is an interesting guy. The first time I saw him, he was wearing a top hat.
Tell you a little something about money.
You know, I kind of think of Richard Hart as like the Donald Trump of crypto. You can't look away.
Whenever he's talking about like the amounts that the OA wallet has, when he says OA, that is the origin account. OA, origin account. So the origin account is is the account where like it has a lot of responsibilities, and the contract relates to the origin account because penalties, half of the penalties that you may experience in the Hex contract will go to the OA. And there's this really good system of asymmetrically balancing the allocations of Hex tokens so that this product cannot be front run. The contract with the OA attached cannot be screwed with and messed up and caused a problem. Instead, in time, over the course of 100 years, or I'm not sure how many years, but a lot of years, the OA will slowly become less prominent in the whole Hex system. But right now, it is very strong in the Hex system. And so this guy, he claims that Hexicans wouldn't want other people to see the OA's allocations and moves and things like that. And it's like, actually, we're just fine with everybody understanding that. It's just that they have to have a mature way of looking at it. So it's not the first thing that we're going to tell people about. The first thing we're going to tell people about is, of course, appealing to their greed and their best interests of like, hey, this is a way that you can grow your crypto bag without giving up your coins to another wallet. That's the first time. Like, we're not going to talk about all these in-depth, this is how the system can't be front run. And Tintop is relating this to fractional reserve, or was the last topic related to fractional reserve? All right, let's go forward.
One word. One word. Okay, here we go. Ready? In one word.
In one word.
Who is Richard Hart?
Just one word. God.
Hole.
Messiah.
Legendary.
Hero. Master. The benevolent king. I don't want to say God because everyone's going to say God.
Genius.
Savior.
Whether you like him or you don't, he is genuine.
$250,000. $250,000. Hate me. I'm farther than you'll ever be in your whole life. $250,000.
Ouch. All right. So I guess that just like points out people's expectations. It's hard to connect and trust somebody that you meet through the internet, you know? Tin Top says that last comment of his was the last topic, where they were talking about the 40K. If I was to give you the 40K, would you not take it because you didn't know where it came from? So Richard went through this stage where it was outrage marketing. So he's gone through a few stages of trying to reach people. And it's hard to get a hold of people and say, hey, like, snap out of your delusion of what this world is and what we're doing here. Richard's philosophy is fix the money, fix the world. And I've got that at the top of this mural that's behind me. You can see fix the very clearly, but the rest of it says fix the money, fix the world. So we're talking about like fixing our expectations with money and the paths of money rather than the bottlenecking situations that we have today, sucking up for every little bit. But yeah, like this stage of outrage marketing, like at one point he was going around with like really nice clothing on, hoisting bags that were just like newly purchased expensive items from these stores in downtown, old downtown cities in Europe. And a lot of people were commenting on Instagram. That was, I think he deleted his Instagram account. But that's because like it's a lot to keep up with. He's already made his splash in Instagram. And then there's scammers every time, like on Twitter, basically we have a scammer every other day that comes out and spells Richard Hart Win. That's his handle, spells it a little bit different and then copies all of his pictures and makes us think that, Richard is interacting with us, which, it's a scammer. So all these people on social media were posting like, there's Richard running off with the Hexicans money because we're in Hex, we're Hexicans. But that was just him spreading his word out to more and more people in areas that he would normally not be able to reach. Yeah, Tin Top says calling Richard God is a cringe. I would go as far as Savior. That's cool. Yeah, so Crypto Black, I think, the rapper, I think he said the Savior bit. Let me say that, like, whenever Richard first said that he was going to make a token, after Richard appealed to me as a mentor teacher through the internet back in 2017 Christmas time, whenever it was that I wanted to know more about Bitcoin, and he came on a live stream and said immediately, the first words that came out of his mouth, Bitcoin is dead. And I had never heard that from anybody. It was such juxtaposition to what anybody else was saying that I wanted to hear out what this guy had to say. And then whenever he told me stuff, it went right over my head. And I wish I could go back and find that exact video. I really don't think that it's available anymore. But whenever you said that, I was just like, okay, well, obviously this guy has some information that probably I should digest. So I put it on the shelf, the mental shelf, and I kept watching all these other YouTubers, and I think I found Richard on Facebook first. But after that, after he influenced me a bit, taught me a bit, I was still playing around with the idea of gaining wealth on any crypto. And then he said that he was coming out with his own coin. And when he said that, and that you could earn interest on it, when he said that, then I sent him a Twitter direct message. And I said, hey, I do architecture. I would like to do something for you. And he responded back, hey there, because it was the first time we ever talked to each other. So he said, hey there, come and get into the Telegram chat of this certain Telegram chat and see and offer your services there. So like I was actually talking about architecture. I wasn't talking about software architecture. So whenever it was that I went into that chat and introduced myself and everything, nobody cared. And so I just didn't do anything with it. But what I wanted to convey right now with this is that back in the day, it was easy to get a hold of him. He was very personable, respectable, and easygoing. Probably very confident and determined behind all that. And then things progressed. And so now, what do I do with architecture for this community? I still haven't built anybody anything or designed anybody anything. Instead, I'm efficient in my own ways, and I've put myself to work with the postcards group and then spanning off of that into mailings. So I take some of my crypto gains in Hex and I get things printed off and I package them up into different, a variety of stuff inside of these mailers, and I get them to people around the world. So recently I've sent to Guam and the Philippines and Austria and Hungary, as well as all over the United States. Earlier today, I just sent something to Montreal. So almost all the provinces of Canada have been reached, and almost all of the states have been reached. I'm lacking some of the northwestern states, like New Hampshire. If you know anybody in New Hampshire, I'm trying to target that state. And if you have anybody who is a noob, a no-coiner noob, who needs to be introduced to Richard Heart and the capabilities of cryptocurrency, the freedom that it offers, you can send me their address. My handle on Twitter is any address. It doesn't have to have a name attached. It can just be some random person's address. And tell me if they're a noob or an existing Hexakin, and I will send them a package accordingly. So if it's a noob, they'll get a magnet and a letter, a handwritten letter. And if they're a Hexakin, they'll get stickers, business cards, magnets. They'll get all sorts of stuff. Yeah, Tin Top here says that he almost missed the Hex launch, waiting for him to launch the token. And I understand. There were a lot of people in that situation. I, however, every half a week was popping into the Hex chat on Telegram. And there for a while, whenever I first joined the Hex Telegram chat, I thought that I had to read everything that was there. And that was a hard lesson learned. My goodness, there was so much to read. I probably read an entire book worth of posts until I realized that I can't keep this up. And how long is it going to take for him to launch this thing? I've been waiting a while. So yeah, we waited 2 years for it to launch. I'm not even sure, like maybe an entire year or a year and 2 months. Yeah, we were waiting a long time, and I understood what he was saying with software is hard. So we just have to have patience, and you'd much rather have it work and be correct instead of years on down the road it falling apart. So we have an excellent product and something now that we can stand behind.
Money is not what a lot of people think it is. A lot of people, when they think about money, they think of, oh, this thing that has value. Pieces of paper, like a $20 bill, that doesn't have any value. To be honest, no one's quite sure anymore what money really is. So Hex, they like to say it's the first certificate of deposit built on a blockchain.
That seems like a big deal, right?
That's right.
So then
you go to their website, you read that, and you're like, again, that sounds compelling. I mean, investors I talk to, they're like, oh yeah, I heard about Hex. Like, we're not going to touch that. And sometimes it's not the due diligence, it's not the research, it's just the optics and perception.
All right, so I mentioned earlier, Hex is the first time deposit on a blockchain. It was first on Ethereum, and now it's on Pulse Chain. Pulse Chain is a network that Richard Hart created. He's the author of it. But for all the new people to Hex, I just want to talk about just Hex instead of the difference between Ethereum and Pulse Chain. But yeah, 3 years ago when Hex launched, it launched on Ethereum, and it still exists on Ethereum as well. So yeah, these people just talked about it being the first time deposit, and it works well.
Hex.
And at the end of your time period, you are to return to interact with a contract in order to unstake. So you stake at the beginning, where you set the amount of tokens and the time period that you're staking it out for. And then whenever that time period's over, you return to the contract with your same wallet. You have to have that same wallet that you started it with. So you unstake and you retrieve your principal plus your interest earned. But if you do not unstake within 2-week time period, which is your 2-week grace period, if you don't do that within that time period, you will start to be penalized. And the reason why that is a good feature to have is because some people, they lose access to their wallet, or maybe they die. So yeah, those are basically two of the same, right? Where your family member doesn't have access to your wallet or doesn't even know it exists. But we don't want stagnant wallets in the system. We want things to be pretty clear and set in stone. So I actually like that feature where over the course of a year or two, I keep forgetting whether it's a year or two that it'll drain your entire wallet if you don't unstake. Let's just say it's a year. Over the course of a year, you 100% will be drained if you don't unstake. Let's keep going. Oh, almost 2 years, Tin Top says. Thank you. We're 3/4 of the way through.
Hex? In one sentence, what is Hex?
The best crypto asset in the world.
Cryptocurrency, put it away for a period of time and it basically multiplies.
So instead of offering the 2% you get when you put your money into a savings account, with Hex you can get APY of up to 40%.
The longer you stake, you lock in your coins, the more interest you earn.
Which pays the most incredible rate of interest I've ever come across. Around about 40% APY.
You can just stake your Hex and enjoy the gains.
Hex is freedom. There's no other word for it.
This is the best potential in the entire world. If you get this right, you never have to work again a day in your life. If you get it wrong, you lose everything.
Okay, next card.
All right. So they were talking about like how you can stake your Hex and go do something else and not have to worry about it. It's hands off while you earn interest. On the last topic, Tin Top added that unintended stagnant stakes get redistributed to the staker class. And what he means by that is like whenever it is that you get drained out to 0, if it is that you don't unstake, if you never unstake after the time period of 2 weeks, then you'll start to drain out and eventually you'll drain out to 0, right? Well, all of that draining out gets redistributed to the staker class. And by the staker class, we mean the other people who have kept their stakes, kept their promises. So whenever it is that we were talking about the OA earlier, the origin account and receiving part of the penalties, they also the OA will also receive a bit of those penalties as you're draining out. So we call it the staker class, like other people who are with you in staking. There's all different amounts of wealth that people stake in the system. And so like we have this rank inside, I guess we have these classes inside all of the stakers. And so we identify the classes based on the amount of shares that you have. So whenever you stake some Hex, it's represented in shares. And those shares represent how much reward you get per day, the interest that you get per day. So talking about what these guys were talking about right here, they're talking about how you stake it and forget it and go pay attention to your passions. And then Richard is in a clip there that says something about this could either be like the best decision in your life or the worst decision in your life. And he's just talking about crypto in general. If you're not paying attention to the structure of the cryptocurrency that you got involved in, quite possibly somebody could be taking your money through the back door, and you're left with something that has the value of nothing or very, very little. So imagine you investing in something and it going down, 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 and then now you don't have any trading power. You have no purchasing power with it, and you have no trading power with it. So you just lost your funds. You still have the tokens that you bought. It's just that the tokens aren't worth as much. So that's why in crypto we often talk about ratios instead of dollar values. Apples and oranges. There's 3 apples over here. Do they equal 3 oranges, or do they equal 4 oranges? And that's actually making me pretty hungry because I've got some oranges in the fridge back at the house, and they're all right. They're all right oranges. Could be better. All right, let's go back to the video.
A lot of us are panicking. A lot of the guys that I worked out there hard with are sitting in a place and they're uneasy and they don't know what they're going to do. And their 401ks look like 104ks. Okay, let's see what we got here. Like Christmas, huh? Yay! Trichome hat. That's where we're at. What's going to fix that? People should be learning about what cryptocurrencies can do for money. Because if you fix the money, you fix the world. So today I look at crypto as being the modern day equivalent to the pirating, because we're about to start taking it back from the banks. Ahoy, crypto pirates! I am the Captain RG3. Look at this. Woo!
It's funny that he says, I am the Captain RG3, when I thought the saying was, I am your captain. This is your Captain RG3. So RG3 was talking about, by the way, this is one of our lead streamers in the Hex community. He's one of the guys that got out there early in front of everybody and corralled everybody. And he had a show that was multiple times during the week, but also on Fridays there was the Hangout, which had it to where just normal Joe Blow Hexicans would chime in with their video calls and stuff. And whether they were drinking on stream or what, it was just like real life people getting in front and coming together and exchanging their opinions and points of view and stuff. So RG3 was talking about how, like, he's been in the military before, and I'm not sure exactly what his job was after military, or if he ever really got out of servicing the United States, but he's worked some sweaty blood, sweat, and tear jobs before. And these folks that have been alongside of him have torn up their bodies and worked really hard throughout the years. And now their 401k doesn't look as good as it did just, 10 years ago. Even though they continue to put into it, it still doesn't look as good as it did 10 or 20 years ago. It's a sad situation. I remember I talked about this just earlier. Whenever I jumped from corporate world back in 2012, I remember seeking advice from people on what I should do with my 401k. Should I pull it and experience the huge losses, like 40 or 50% loss, in order for it to be liquidity in my bank account? Or should I leave it with the approved, mutual funds? And I didn't like any of the approved mutual funds, and that's why I pulled it. And I was just like, wow, this money could go toward bettering some other situation. And so if you know me well enough, you know that money went to a Montana eco village, which I'm earning interest on. And I have a stable relationship with the people that are creating that. But that was much, much better fit for bettering the world than it sitting in a mutual fund. The office approved, it's just silly stuff. I don't even remember the names of those things anymore. I do remember visiting the website that I could decide how to allocate my 401k. I do remember getting docked like 40 to 50%. I do remember about how much it was. Back then, I was getting matched on like 3%, I think it was. Up to 3% they would match. It was a worldwide company. I had no opportunity to move up in it, so everything was shot from the beginning. I was just the young guy in the office being taken advantage of, and the only person that could do my job, so I should have demanded more. Oh well. All right, Tin Top knows a little bit more about RG3. He was a millwright. Moved large industrial machinery with crews of people. Interesting. All right, so maybe we're at the end of it. Tin Top also says the only good thing I can say about 401k and the like is the company match. Exactly. But hey, it's all fake money anyway. I can't imagine people, like, whenever I was jumping from corporate ship, there were a lot of people who were starting to question the system. There were a lot of brave people who jumped from their jobs. And that was right when van life was starting out. People were starting to buy vans and renovate them and saying like, hey, I'd rather live this life than be stuck in the city and maybe make $100 worth of savings every month. Oh, what did I want to say there? So I can't imagine people staying with a company for their entire lifetime. And then maybe even if they suck, they're asked to retire early for a smaller amount of retirement pay. But yeah, companies just don't take care of people as they did whenever my grandfather was alive and his perspective of how people were taken care of by these companies. And just to let you know, inside this building right here, my grandfather and my dad both retired. My grandfather retired of old age, and my dad was still running the auto parts store. And then my dad retired and started taking care of my grandfather. My grandmother died of old age as well, but it was a sudden situation. So that was before my grandfather, while my dad was still running the store, I think. And so this store had started back in 1966. My dad went off to college, got a finance degree or something like that. He was an accountant in Houston for Houston Oil and Gas, which then became Enron. My mom also got an accountant degree and was in the same office as my dad over there in Houston Natural Gas. So they met and married in Houston, and then they moved back here to my hometown to have us kids. And so my dad started working for the family business of the auto parts, and my mom did multiple accounting jobs around town whenever it was that she had the time to do that, which really was often. And then she also was a city council member. My grandfather and my mom were both city council members here in this town at one point, giving back in the way that they knew how to. And back then it was a much smaller town, so they had like some all-star players that were making some decisions. Bright Light's in the house. Hey, Bright Light. We've had quite a few people come in and out this evening. I've seen the viewership pop up and sink back down, because what we're doing is just reviewing the highest of stakes trailers, and we're on the last one actually.
First day of class. I don't know what crypto is. What do you tell me?
It's money that you can literally create. Now, what some people don't understand is that the Fed also has this power. The Fed literally prints dollars.
Sure.
So central banks have this power, but in the world of crypto, anyone has this power.
So, okay, money with no physical presence.
Yes.
Second red flag.
All cryptocurrency is it's an Excel spreadsheet on the internet where you need your password to spend your money.
What if I told you Bitcoin is code? Do you trust people or do you trust code?
I don't know. I'm going to say it's compelling. That's what you keep saying.
Yes. People, the right people who are honest and true and do a good job, I'm going to put my money with them, but people are fallible. People can be corrupted. People can make bad decisions.
Wow. It's compelling. That's something they must have implanted in my head. So there are 3 points here. You can make cryptocurrencies out of nothing. Yes, right? But we have an entrepreneur who invented or got a team of people to invent a code to live by, to organize by, to participate with. So whenever they say that there's no physical thing behind the currency, the physical thing is the magic of people interacting with code. The physical thing would also be the code, it being sewn into the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, the Pulse chain blockchain. And them saying, like, with the push of a button, the Federal Reserve also creates the United States dollar in that same way, by creating it. But it's probably a lesser on the technology scale, right? And then, are you going to trust human beings? Like, the Federal Reserve decides where the ceiling is going to be. The debt ceiling. Well, actually, it's the debt ceiling would be the United States, right? The Federal Reserve decides whether they're going to issue more dollars or not. And so that's a group of people, or so they say. Maybe it's the chair. But with the cryptocurrency, the code, people are navigating to Hex because they trust it, because they like what they see. They like the tokenomics. So Bright Light is talking about the last topic with the 401ks. Saying that small business is fighting just like us for retirement. And they get scammed just like us due to the education they got taught. And he says that he's also usually a lurker. Dun, dun, dun. So, Bright Light, what I've been doing here, or what I typically do on a Tuesday night, is I'll do a live stream and then I'll post it to a place on meetup.com, because I'm trying to let people know people in Austin area that's local to me, because I'm 20 miles north of Austin, that there is a local person that talks about Hex and exposes them to Hex. And then also previously in the same evening, I'll join the Bitcoiners for their little get together that I also found on meetup.com. So typically, like, people create or organize meetups on this website in order to express and practice their hobbies. So like, if it is that my friend is single and he likes to do yoga, I might advise him, like, go find a girl in the same hobby through meetup.com. And with those Bitcoiners, I have had traction with the folks week after week or month after month. And I'm really happy about that, because I started attending their stuff like 3/4 of a year or half a year ago. And so that was before, of course, the Pulse Chain launch. And then now that Pulse Chain launched, we can say, yes, we're continuing to have success. We're continuing to do things inside the Richard Heart ecosystem. Even though there's been a price drop or dip of Hex in the meantime, we've been able to see all of these other things in crypto fail, and us continue to be successful and up and running. So one thing that I wanted to bring up to them today was, hey, have you seen Mashinsky, the Celsius guy? Have you seen him in his prison garb, where he's got the orange shirt on? But yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried should have been Sam Bankman-Fried, but they're probably just playing with us. And I think we'll end with this, with Tin Top saying, it is true DeFi. That's kind of hard for some people to absorb sometimes. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. And I'm always available on Twitter at EcoBuilder. It's been an hour and 42 minutes, probably 42 minutes longer than I wanted. Cheers, guys. Have a great week. Bye.